to That's Life. I'm Marcia Boyles, one of your hosts, and I'm, as always, pleased to introduce my co-host, Kathleen Taylor, our social work manager.
Yeah.
Kathleen, this is our second anniversary.
I know. I'm with everybody else. How did that happen?
Exactly. I think we're both just very surprised and very pleased.
Yeah.
I should tell folks that in preparation for this program today, our second anniversary, we went back and looked at our first programs, and we hadn't seen those for 2 years.
Right.
And then we looked at our 1-year anniversary. Much to, I think, both of our surprises, that first program really laid out the objectives, and we have stuck with them ever since.
Yeah, they've kind of evolved, just like our characters have evolved, but yeah. Absolutely.
Do you remember what we said on that first program?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we were really trying to do is to create a way to show people how social workers interact with residents here at Green Spring. We wanted it to be something that would engage people and really get their attention instead of us just sort of telling. So that was where we came about doing the role plays and creating these fictional characters. I think our goal for the characters was to have them be as real as possible and as relatable as possible, and to have situations that would resonate with the residents. And I am just so happy to be able to say that we really have achieved that. I was listening to the show before I came on, and the residents that have been created are so real to me, and I hear that the actors are saying that they're real to them too, and we hear that the residents out there in the community are getting very confused sometimes about whether these are fictional characters or real characters. So I think we really are, capturing people's attention in the way that we wanted to.
Absolutely, I think we are. And as a storyteller and writer, I'm always concerned with the storyline.
Right.
So we've had fun with that. I think maybe we could tell folks a little bit about how the characters and their stories evolve. That we sit with the characters and say, now, this is what will be a good story if you're willing to do this. And sometimes they say, absolutely not.
Right.
I won't do that. Or sometimes they say, that's out of character for this character. So I think what has happened, you put it well, I think. You said it became a creative and collaborative process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that what you were touching on when you were interviewing the actors was just how the person's personality got integrated into the character. So that makes it just that much more real. So that's where I think when you came up with something that the character or the person or both said, no, that's not something that would be consistent with who I am in this role, that was good, because that was accurate.
And sometimes it was because of the character that it wouldn't be accurate, or sometimes it was because the person, the real person, said, no, I don't want to go there emotionally, or I don't want to go there for some reason.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, these characters certainly are combinations of real and fictional, aren't they?
Yeah, and the fact that they grew throughout the whole process. Every one of the actors was talking about the evolution of their character, and how that character changed over time.
Yes.
And that's so cool, because I mean, if I get back to what our purpose was, which is to show how social workers work with our residents, that's exactly what we're trying to do, is help people to change over time.
All right, I hadn't thought about it that way, but that would certainly make sense.
Yeah, and even just knowing, I think looking at it from a social work standpoint, that every one of the characters came in with a particular problem or a particular reason to come in, but where we went after that was, not necessarily just that area, but the relationship developed, and I think as the comfort level increased, then other things came into play too. Maybe they came in with more of a concrete problem, but then the emotional piece started to play in. And that's very real. That's very real.
That would certainly make sense, Kathleen. And I think the thread throughout all of these is how much the social workers really do have our backs in so many situations. Absolutely, I think it's just critical.
Yeah. Well, what we try to be is a safe place where anybody can come in. You don't have to be able to. You might have just a vague notion of what's going on. You don't have to come in with a problem, but just sort of like, I don't feel, something's not right somehow. And part of our job is to help tease out what exactly is going on and then help you move forward from there. So that I think that journey, those paths that our characters took were really pretty consistent with that process.
Yes, I think they absolutely were, and they're still evolving.
Right, right.
Our main characters.
Absolutely, and we've had. I think when people look back at the show too, I think they see, sometimes the characters would just come into the social worker's office and say, "Hey, I just had a great experience." So I would like to just say that, we don't have to just be people that you come to when you're having a bad time. You can share the good times too.
Yes, and I think sometimes you've told the characters that.
Absolutely.
Come share your good news.
Yeah, I want to hear that too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think we'll stop now and have the interviews. Well, Kay, I'm just delighted to see you today. Pansy, your character, is one of our very favorites.
Well, thank you very much. Pansy has enjoyed these 2 years of learning many lessons.
Well, gosh, now that's a nice thing to say. Pansy is beloved because she has learned, I think, many of these lessons. And we almost always get a laugh out of Pansy. She's been our comedic character. Kay, how do you see Pansy?
Well, I love Pansy because she has a wonderful way of making people laugh, and that's my favorite thing in life, is to make people laugh. So I like her very much.
Tell us how she has evolved.
Well, through the 2 years, believe it or not, she has had one experiment, I will say, with life after another, because she was suddenly alone for the first time in her life and didn't know what to do. And so in her quest to find how she was going to fit into this new life, she kept getting in trouble or making mistakes or what have you. But she had an aha moment. She thought for a long time that one had lived their life until they got old and then they died. And she discovered that's not what happens. You live a long life and then you get old and you don't die. So then you have a whole new way of living.
As an old person.
As an old person. And you have no help. Nobody knows how to show you the way. There is no way. You make your own way. And that's where Pansy finds herself right now, making her way through this maze of old age.
Well put, well put. Pansy, you have tried a number of different things. Some seem to be a little more successful than others. Almost all of them humorous. I should tell you that your flamingos have become, I don't know how to say this, an interactive exhibit on my shelf.
I see.
People are putting necklaces and all kinds of things on them. They're decorating them.
Good.
So every time I go out, I'm not sure what's going to be on the flamingos.
Wonderful.
So they're leading a very
Wonderful.
adventuresome life.
They got the sense of humor from me, I think.
I think they must have. And I think some of the other residents might have too, judging from the decorations. How do you feel about where Pansy is right now? What is she
for the
up to?
first time in her life, she's open to what next, like she's never had to be before. She always had a pretty good idea what was next. And suddenly, there are no rules, there's no she doesn't know what's next. Every day she wakes up in a strange new world. And
Is it exciting?
it's frightening, but
Daunting?
there's a little excitement beginning to drift in there.
All right, we'll pursue that at a later time. But
Okay.
judging from the gleam in your eye, I think it must be something quite good.
Wait and see.
All right. Morris, we're delighted to have you. You're a fairly new addition to That's Life. Tell us about yourself, and tell us about what your story is for That's Life.
My story is one of relationships, and it stems from the fact that all my life I've had many acquaintances. I haven't had very many friends, and I define friends as somebody who is really meaningful to you, who you could share anything with, and they share equally with you. And when I moved into Greenspring, it was a new world for me, and I was trying to figure out how to go about becoming a meaningful part of Greenspring. And the first effort I made had to do with finding out how to establish a hello relationship with a woman that I met when I came to a luncheon before I moved in. When I moved in, I found that she was a resident on the same floor I was. And because I had been widowed for a long time, I really didn't know how to approach that kind of situation because, frankly, I was afraid of being rejected. But everything worked out really very well.
And I think Kathleen gave you a little courage.
She gave me the push I really needed.
She said, "Go be a man."
And the situation that developed was what I had been looking for.
It was worth taking the risk.
Right.
Well, both of you have been absolutely charming about this. Now, I think we should confess to our viewers that maybe it's the two of you. Maybe it's the two of you. Is that correct?
Yes, there's something to be said for that. Yes.
All right, you would fess up to that. You would fess up to that.
Yes.
Well, we certainly look forward to exploring the relationship. Dating at Greenspring is probably going to have its positives and negatives, and we're all going to be very interested in how this works out.
Me too. And I think we have a date tomorrow.
We do indeed.
All right, you two. We'll look forward to more of Boris and Pansy. Thank you both. Well, Gretchen, I'm delighted to see you today. I should call you by your character. You are Wendy Ford.
Yes, ma'am.
And you will always be Wendy Ford to us. You played a very important role in the That's Life series in playing a character who transitioned to assisted living in Garden Ridge, and all the process that you went through. Now, tell us about this character.
Well, at first I thought this is going to be difficult because I have so much enjoyment in my apartment, and I, as the resident that I really am, I enjoy it, and I have a husband and so forth and children.
And you shunned both of those as Wendy.
Yeah, and as Wendy, I had to think, okay, I'm living alone. I've been here a long time, widowed, and I have friends, and I am feeling a little bit doubtful of how well I'm going to be doing in the long run. I'm beginning to see signs of wondering if I'm going to be safe in the shower, or if I'm going to remember my medications at the right time. And I'm thinking, as Wendy, that she needs to be given a chance for some help when that time comes, that she realizes she needs more. And so this program really gave me and Wendy a chance to prepare for eventually making the transition.
So you had to go through all the psychological steps and physical steps mentally.
And relinquishing the idea of being in the apartment forever, and being overwhelmed by, oh my gosh, I have so much stuff, so many clothes, so many books, so many files, so many things saved that have meaning. And you know, when you think of your family taking care of you or your stuff when you've gone, you don't want to leave them with a bunch of stuff that only is sentimental to you. You want something maybe meaningful for them. So that was beginning to get to Wendy, that she would have to part with things that she might like, but her family wouldn't have the same relationship with. So a lot of things were going on as this character developed and got closer to the time of actually arranging with the social worker's help to what are the next steps for making this transition. So it was very good to meet Arzo and to
the Garden Ridge transition coordinator.
Thank you.
That we had on the show.
Yeah, and she was very specific and helpful, and gave information that would benefit all the residents. I think we all need to learn what the steps would be for our sake, our own sakes, and for our family.
I thought so too, Gretchen, that it was extremely helpful. It was helpful because you were so realistic about the kinds of things that really would occur to you if you were honestly making that transition. Yeah. And then Arzo laying out the facts.
Yeah.
And the social worker too, of course.
Yeah, and Anne asked good questions, my social worker, Anne Talley.
She did, absolutely, helping you gather the needed information.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your character, Wendy? How do you feel about her?
Well, I like her. She's pretty realistic. She's a bit emotional. And that's okay, because you got to deal with your emotions when you're making such a big change.
Absolutely.
And also, she's sentimental about her friends and her family and how she enjoys the relationships that she has. So when she makes this transition to Garden Ridge, she's not planning to cut off what she's been doing over here in different interest groups and associations and the groups that she's been active with. And so there's a more community feeling of going back and forth between independent friends and Garden Ridge living.
Well, and as you pointed out, one of the great benefits here is that we can do that either way.
And that we're encouraged to keep up those friendships.
Absolutely.
And have a car as long as you can drive safely, and to keep appointments off campus or go to church or whatever you may feel you still want to be part of. I was very encouraged to have that be clear.
Gretchen, I think you really did help provide a wonderfully helpful set of programs. So again, many thanks for this, and I think we'll probably be revisiting Wendy. Have her come back to the program and tell us how she's faring over at Garden Ridge.
Great.
Terrific.
I look forward to that.
Thanks so much.
You.
Well, Cecilia, It's nice to see you. I'm so glad you came in this morning. I think it's appropriate that we start this program with you today. You
All right.
were the first character on our program, That's Life, when we started it 2 years ago.
I can't believe it was 2 years, however.
I know, none of us can. Do you remember the first line you spoke?
I think I was pretty incensed that I was told to see a social worker, so I said something like, I don't know why I'm here, or I don't know why I have to see a social worker.
That's exactly what you said.
Oh.
You said it very grumpily.
Oh, well, I was a grumpy person at that point.
You were. And let's talk a little bit about the character you were and the character you have become.
All right.
Cecilia certainly has evolved in many ways. Tell us, Cecilia, how you have grown and changed.
Well, when I started, I guess I was grumpy and disgruntled because I had to see a social worker, told by my physician, and I could see no reason in the world why I had to see a social worker, and didn't know what a social worker could possibly do for me.
You didn't know what a social worker did.
I did not know what she did or he did. No.
All right, and as I remember, you were coming in because you'd had heart surgery.
I was going to have heart surgery, which was pretty daunting because I never thought there was anything the matter with my heart or anything else. And all of a sudden, I was told I had to have open heart surgery, which is pretty frightening.
Yeah.
So I came into Kathleen, and she calmed me down and told me all of the ins and outs and what I could expect or what I could do. And we went from there.
That was the beginning of your Cecilia journey.
It was.
And you've had some adventures in between.
Oh, yes, indeed. I can't believe it's been 2 years, but of all the things that have happened to Cecilia, I guess 2 years is not too long a period to think about. But after the heart surgery, then I didn't want to go to Garden Ridge, and so I had that all explained to me. And then I can't think what my next problem was. My daughter, who never came to see me, that was another one.
And was asking for money all the time.
And asking for money, and I finally had to say no, which gave me a lot of guilt feelings. So then after that, my daughter, I guess, became more friendly, and then she announced, unbeknownst to me, that she was she came to a restaurant with her new friend, who was a woman. And that was a bit of a shock because she hadn't warned me or told me anything. And that has turned out beautifully.
Well, and we had Reverend Jim Bell on.
We did.
And she had a wedding in the Green Spring Chapel.
Yes.
Yes, that was quite lovely.
Mm-hmm.
You reported. Well, Jenny, is this character partly you? Is it partly fictional?
Well, I suppose, it's mostly fictional, almost 100% fictional.
Certainly the incidents that have happened have been totally fictional.
Because I don't have daughters.
Right.
That's one thing.
Right.
And one of your daughters your daughter did have drug problems, did she not?
Yeah,
and that's
I
how
don't
she
have
met
that.
in rehab.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
And
Always.
somebody
Thanks for-
said to a friend of mine, I don't know why Ginny would talk about her daughters like that on TV. And of course, then she was told, I didn't have any daughters. So then maybe the person realized that we were playing a part.
Jenny, this seemed to happen often to you and the early characters. I think it may have happened to you too, Eloise. That folks really thought that what was happening to Cecilia was happening to you.
Yes, when I was going to have open heart surgery, a friend of mine was so incensed because my daughter wouldn't come pick me up. She said, "Oh, I'll go pick her up." You know. Well, of course, I wasn't having surgery.
Well, of course, you will be forever Cecilia to all of us involved in this show.
Well, that's fine.
Do you think of yourself as Cecilia sometimes?
At times. Yeah, at times.
How do you feel about this character? Do you like
I
Cecilia?
like her. I like her.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
The fact that this is improv, some of the things that certainly you say as Cecilia have got to come from Jenny King.
I suppose.
Well, you have done an incredible job. When we went back and looked at the first programs, you were just as amazing as we thought you were at the time.
Oh, well, thank you.
It was really quite
It was
splendid.
fun.
You were extremely
been
convincing. And we should go on to say, Jenny, that this is not the end of Cecilia.
Oh, all right.
She's in the midst of having some problems with one of her fictional daughters.
Yes, that's
again,
true,
Or,
true.
this is a new problem. So we will go from there
All
and see
right.
what happens.
All right, fine.
All right, Eloise, Nancy Gardner, sorry. Your character came in a little bit later, and tell us how your character has evolved.
Initially, my problems were external. I had a neighbor here at Green Spring who was coming to my patio and taking my flowers because she thought they were hers. I needed to find a way to compromise to deal with the issues.
This was a neighbor with some dementia?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And we tried various solutions in order to end the problem. And it actually ended with her declining a little bit more, and we needed to call security and so forth. But it was an opportunity to explain how a social worker can help make decisions.
Yes, your social worker certainly did
Right.
help you deal with that
Yes.
that whole issue. All right. Well, once you got that resolved, then what has happened to your character?
My character now has an internal problem, if you will, has been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. So I'm going through the first stages of learning how to deal with that. Not only emotionally as well as physically, but more emotionally and more in the aspect of being open to talking about it, to telling my family, to making the preparations necessary for next steps in my life.
Eloise has, let's see, your social worker has been Kathleen.
Yes.
Has Kathleen been helpful?
Absolutely, not only to my character, to helping me to attend a Parkinson's group, to make me realize that there is strength in admitting your problems, that I don't always have to be the parent who knows everything and is taking care of her children, that it's all right for my children to take care of me. Or to tell them. Those have all been very positive. And they've shown that sometimes the biggest fear is not knowing or not admitting that one has a problem.
How do you feel about your character?
I like her. She's a strong woman who's facing this as best she can, dealing with end-of-life issues, hasn't told her children yet. But is getting there.
I was going to say, and you're doing a lot of preparation.
Yes,
as
absolutely,
you're
for
pointing
end-of-life
out,
issues.
Getting things, your advance
in order.
directive. And, all right. Well, I think it's kind of fun that both of you like your characters. I think we've all found them admirable and fun sometimes, and certainly interesting and likable. I quite agree. Well, again, you two have been mainstays of this program. I can't tell you how much we've enjoyed and appreciated your participation and help on this. So I think we'll stop now and turn to other characters. Well, those were great interviews with folks. It's fun watching them recapitulate their characters and say that they like their characters.
I know, that's the most fun. I like these characters a lot too. And it is funny, sometimes I'll see like Jenny walking down the hallway and I'll go to like say something and it'll be like, Cecilia, oh no, Jenny.
Right.
They're just sort of like together now in my head.
They absolutely are. When I exchange emails with all these characters, they'll either put Cecilia and Jenny, or she'll cite it Cecilia. So I mean, it's just
That's so cool.
We have great fun with it. Kathleen, where at this point do you see this show going? This is our second anniversary. Are we going to change anything, do you think?
Well, I know we've talked about new characters, so I think that
Yes.
that's mostly what we're looking at now, is just new characters,
New situations.
And then I don't know, because we're being creative and collaborative, we don't know where we're going.
Right.
We're just playing it by ear a little bit, which is part of the fun.
Well, we've done that from the beginning, absolutely off the seat of our pants from
Yeah.
one month to the next, and that has been the fun of it.
Yeah.
And the fact that we don't have any scripts, this is all improv.
Right.
The characters are also doing it.
Yeah. But we always sort of say that if a resident that's out there that thinks there might be a situation that they think have a good storyline for us, they should reach out to us and let us know.
Absolutely. We've gotten many of our ideas
We have.
from residents.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, yep, we'll encourage them to come to either one of us. I think one of the things that we need to point out is that Homer has been a beloved character throughout the whole length of this program, and that he's unable to come today, or we would have included him.
For sure. That's Vince Anger.
That's Vince Anger,
Yep.
yes. And of course, he just is Homer.
Yes.
And he tells me that he is Homer to the community now.
I believe
So,
that. Yep, I believe that.
Absolutely.
Great character.
He's been wonderful. I think also, Kathleen, we want to remember to thank all of the people. We only interviewed 6 or 5 of our folks today, but there's been a huge number of people who have contributed to this program, including, by the way, the Channel 6 staff who have been wonderful.
Absolutely.
And in terms of directing the show, and also in terms of the graphics, which we are so fond of. So I think we will roll now the credits and the list of participants in our program. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll look forward to seeing you all of next year.